Today we're going to talk about this really interesting podcast I watched a while ago where these two people talk about why men feel trapped in today's society and why they don't feel manly anymore. And the main reason given is it's because of housework.
What?
Which I find to be very interesting to say the least. There seems to be this study that says the higher oxytocin level, the lower testosterone, which I don't think I fully agree with. I'm not going to yap too much and save the actual convo in the video that we're going to watch together. So let me know what you guys think, okay?
I was looking at some stats earlier on that said there's been increased sexual inactivity amongst young men, which is an interesting stat. It's risen to almost 31% of men between the ages of 18 and 24 reporting no sexual activity in the past year. So that's almost doubled in about the space of 18 years.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting stat. High suicide rates amongst men. Men account for nearly 80% of all suicides in the US, the highest rate observed among.
Well, thank you for the follow, Blood Muse. Blood Muse. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in.
45 to 64-year-olds globally, suicide is the leading cause of death amongst young men. And a survey conducted in the UK found that an increasing amount of men feel hopeless and worthless and that are struggling with finding meaning and purpose in the world.
Hi. Welcome in. How are you?
The plight of young men. You talk in your books and in your work about how the role of a man has changed and how that this might not be
Oh my God, this is a video that I talked about.
Necessarily productive for the health and well-being of a man.
Yeah, we've taken away their purpose. When you take a human being's purpose away, remember the purpose for men was to protect their family, it was to hunt in the old days, feed their families, but it was also to protect their families. It was to provide for their families. And what we've done in reversing everything is, although we raised up women, and there are certainly positive things about raising up women, but when we raised up women, we denigrated men. And I have 2 sons, so this is very personal for me. And I also see a lot of young men in my practice, young adult men. And what I'll say is that they feel discouraged, they feel purposeless, they feel diminished. And there has been something vengeful, I think, about. So the feminist movement was meant to give women choice and to balance off what was imbalanced in society. But there's something vengeful about it.
Yeah,
I think
I mean,
at moments,
I agree.
feel like there's something vengeful about the modern feminist movement, which is, let's get them, let's diminish them, let's take over, let's push them out, let's beat them up, let's show them something really vengeful. So so for me, the feminist movement was meant to create balance. It wasn't meant to set into play this other kind of imbalance.
I'm not dating for 3 reasons. I don't really know anyone in the area I live in. I'm disabled, so my scope for people is quite narrow. I'm not a very dateable person in general. Oh no. Yeah. That's tough. That is tough. My grandmother was a staunch feminist. Yeah.
And more than, I think, 60% of universities are women now, as well as graduate schools. And so that means, and the studies show that men will marry at their educational level or below. Women will only marry at their educational level or above. And by diminishing men so much in terms of our education and professions, we've basically taken men's purpose away. They feel purposeless. And the other thing is, and I'm going to say, when men stay home to nurture their children.
Oh my God, this is the part that I talked about.
Now, remember, as mammals, we have defined roles. That is not instinctual for men to stay home and nurture their young. It's a reverse of something. And the issue there is that there's an inverse relationship between oxytocin.
She's basically trying to say that by staying at home and nurturing and taking on more nurturing roles in the house, you're losing testosterone. which is interesting. I've always considered myself a feminist also, at least from my perspective of wanting equality. Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to be, I do think, nowadays it's a little bit on the too extreme side of like, again, being a little bit vengeful and hating on the other gender, which we should do because, we're all equally important in society, men and women. That is such a white person perspective.
And testosterone.
Yeah, she
The
said.
higher the oxytocin, guess what?
The lower the testosterone.
Yes.
So if we're staying at home bonding, then
There's
our
a
testosterone
reason for
drops.
that. So mammals, when they are nurturing their young, they don't want somebody mating with them. Go away, right? So the idea is that when a female nurtures, she doesn't want to have sex. She doesn't want to, right? So the investment in nurturing pushes away the investment in mating.
And this is why I've read so many stats around men's testosterone dropping when they become fathers. Yeah, I couldn't
I don't know.
believe that was true when I read it.
It's true. There was some studies to talk about how women's testosterone goes up. Women have testosterone. When they're out in the work world fighting like men, that their testosterone goes up. And men's testosterone, when they stay home, goes down. Now, what that's doing for sex lives, there's some research about, that is the next wave, which is what does it do to sex lives? Because men have to perform. They have to get it up, to be crude.
Tell me about it.
And so if your testosterone is low, you're not going to get it up, right? Which is why there's all this Viagra and these patches and supplements and, because it's not instinctually normal for husbands to stay home and nurture their children. And that's the inconvenient truth.
It feels like men are a lot more sensitive about their testosterone levels. I'm going to have to Google about this. I don't believe this. Exactly. I feel like it's an excuse. Does oxytocin reduce testosterone? Can reduce testosterone levels. Studies indicate that increased oxytocin, often linked to empathy or social bonding, can lead to decreased testosterone, with the two hormones often exhibiting opposite effects on behavior and social connection. So what? As a man, you shouldn't do anything in the house because it's going to decrease your testosterone? What? Maybe that's a good thing. Yeah. Studies involving empathy induction have observed that increased oxytocin levels occur alongside a decrease in testosterone. I don't believe in this kind of study. So you shouldn't feel empathy because it's gonna decrease your masculinity? What the fuck? That sounds better than raging out all the time. That is true. That is true. That's very true. Testosterone levels decrease after empathy induction. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. This is the one. It's like, I don't know. This is the alpha male ideology BS. I don't believe with this.
How that affects men's and women's sex life when women come home from their banking jobs and their law jobs. Do their husbands not want to have sex with them? And, is that breaking up? So this is all I think this is the next wave of, we've reversed things societally so fast. And then we hope that our evolutionary bodily responses are just going to catch up in merely a century. And it just doesn't, evolution doesn't work like that. It takes hundreds, if not thousands of years to change our bodily evolutionary responses, right? Our instinctual responses. So this is, it's problematic. And also when men's testosterone goes down, they get depressed. So they don't perform sexually well, they get depressed, they feel purposeless.
Testosterone doesn't seem to take the same form as everyone seems to think. For some men, having more testosterone means that they can go bald and get hair in places that never had before, and other men means they end up looking like Arnold's. I don't really understand the science behind it all, but it seems to mean different things in different situations. You're not supposed to have too much of a hormones in like any shape or form, regardless of the gender. That's why you need to like have a balance, a hormonal balance. Too much of anything isn't great. Too low of anything isn't great either. Yeah. I don't know. Um, Oxytocin is associated with trust, sexual arousal, and relationship building. So it's about love. It's a love hormone. It's cuddle chemical. I don't know. I don't think on like a normal level, you have to be too I don't think we need to be too cautious with these kind of love hormones if you're like a normal functioning healthy human being, because unless you're like have addiction issue, I don't know, like sex addiction or some sort of addiction, that's when you have hormonal imbalance. If you just have a loving family and just taking care of the kids and just taking care of your wife and stuff, I don't think your hormones are gonna go that crazy, in my opinion. Pretty sure you can still be in a cuddly place and still get it up. Yeah, exactly. It cannot be that extremely high to be alarming. So I think this is BS.
They can't do what they're instinctually supposed to do, which is provide, protect, hunt. You know, we talk about DEI. I mean, why aren't we talking about DEI when it comes to men and women? Why aren't we talking about balancing the scales, giving men purpose again? And honestly, we should be talking about what happens to men when they actually do.
These people think all sex is like a primal caveman thing or something. Exactly. Yeah. It's different when you're like you're not an animal. Animals are like they mate, and right after they give birth they mate more. The cycle continues and it never stops. But humans are different. You're not supposed to mate all the time. Maybe you need to pull it off a little bit after giving birth, because it's so freaking tiring to take care of a human being. Hi, JD.
Stay home and nurture their young.
Is there stats to support the idea
Thank you for the follow, Zimmerman.
that if you're at home raising your
390 followers. Let's go.
kids as a man, you struggle in the bedroom?
So there was some research I know that was going on about that, how it affects sex drive. But when your testosterone goes down, it does affect sex drive. We're just not talking about it. So I have anecdotal patients. I have a patient whose wife was a hardcore woman in finance, and you know he lost interest in her.
You know what's gonna help with your testosterone level as well? Working out, lifting weights. Just saying. Zimmerman 81. Yeah, we are watching video about the real reason men are quietly giving up. And this lady's theory is basically that nowadays, when men take on more roles of being a husband, like taking care of the kids, tending to the house, and taking care of the wife and stuff, then the oxytocin level rises, and therefore the testosterone levels lower. What if none of us had libido and weren't freaky? Yeah, that too. That too. Like life does not revolve around testosterone. So the theories is that when you nurture, when you take on more nurturing roles, your oxytocin levels rise, and it's linked with testosterone apparently. I try to look it up and it seems to be true. It seems to be true that evidence suggests that oxytocin can reduce testosterone levels. I didn't look into it. I don't know how much these studies are reliable, but that's the theory that this lady is going for.
He had to go out of the marriage and have affairs with
Oh
women.
God, is this like justifying cheating? Oh my God, no. How's this dream going? It's going good. How are you? How's the holiday going? How many red envelopes did you give out?
To go out of the marriage and have affairs with women who were more feminine, who
Oh
were
my
more...
God.
So he could feel as if he could play that masculine role. He couldn't do that in his marriage.
What the
And so are we going to see...
Oh my God, it's about the woman. It's because she's too masculine.
kind of a shift in society as a result of this? We're already seeing it. I mean, the other thing that we're doing is to young boys. Let's talk about what we're doing to young boys.
As a man, I think the reason men are giving up is the same reason women are giving up. Exactly. Life is hard. Yeah, it's tiring. And then there's financial burden. A lot of issues, a lot of complications. You cannot just take one aspect of thing and just run with it. And also, I feel like you cannot have a conversation about one gender without talking about the other gender, because what's happening to one gender, it's intertwined. We're intertwined, you know? We cannot talk about one thing without talking about the other thing. It's tough to be alive right now. Exactly. It's 50-50. Yeah. Wait, what do you mean 50-50? There's no excuse for cheating. I agree.
This starts very young. We basically educate young boys in a way that really favors girls. You know, from a very young age, we talk about being able to sit quietly and regulate your emotions and not be aggressive and not be impulsive. And these little boys are being diagnosed with ADHD, many of them just for being little boys. Little boys need...
This I agree. Testosterone is complicated to process food, no exercise, jaw drops. Exactly. It's a lot of other things like stress and a lot of things, and not just about nurturing and taking care of the house. What? The only things that are exclusive in some way are specific biological or medical issues. Yeah, I agree.
To run around, they have a lot of physical energy, they have tons of testosterone. When you're like between 3 and 6, you have a surge of testosterone, and all you want to do is run and jump and play and be outside. And what we're doing, we're putting them in school, making them sit in circle time. So we marginalize them, we label them, we say they have a problem, we say that they have ADHD, they have behavioral problems. And in many of them,
no, they're just being young kids.
I talked about is the stress of making little boys be more like little girls.
The thing is, though, don't say that little girls are not like playful and active. Little girls, you know what? I have a baby niece. And she's crazy. She needs to run all the time. She needs to be active all the time. She needs constant attention. She needs to play. She likes playing with like the boys, the neighbor boys and stuff. So it's just being a kid. That is just about being a kid.
And that's where it starts. And so then they go into childhood, and again, the educational system favors the way girls learn, not the way boys learn. How do boys learn? Boys have attention spans for very short periods of time, and then they need...
Look, little girls have short attention span too. It is just being a kid. Young kids are all crazy. Exactly. Like, don't say that little girls are not crazy, because there are also, they have short attention span. It's just being a kid thing. And I think a lot of parents don't know that. I think these people are making conclusions with too little info. They take one study or two studies and they just run with it. This lady is cooked. Apparently she wrote a book. She wrote a book. So everyone can write a book lately.
Lots of physical activity. So ideally, if you go to and look at the boys' schools, what do? They run the boys like running the dogs in the park. They sit for 45 minutes or half an hour, but then the boys get time off to run around. And then they'll sit another half an hour and then they'll run around. I mean, they have like 4 recess periods a day. And so that's really better for boys. And little girls
That book should be classified fiction. Let me look at her book after.
More of a capacity to sit quietly in circle time, and
that's not true.
And sort of, they don't have as much testosterone. They don't have that need to run and jump and play to the same degree that little boys do. They do.
Okay. As if the whole world and the whole biology of each and everyone's body is revolved around testosterone only.
Need to play. We're not letting our kids play, boys and girls, because we're trying to force left brain development.
I agree, Bringar. Definitely there are differences between boys and girls. Definitely. But this is not it.
Too early. But we are
so
forcing
dumb.
Little boys into this box, and they're not doing well in that box. And then they're labeled. They're labeled as having behavioral problems, ADHD, and that label then follows them through childhood, sometimes into middle school, into high school. Yeah.
What would you change? I make you prime minister of the world, president of the world, and you can fix this issue.
Oh, I would have little boys educated separately than little girls in the early years. In the early years, I would have boys' schools and girls' schools because little girls learn differently. And also, there's been a lot of evidence to show that in the early years, when you do single gender education, little girls will try things, will take risks with things that they wouldn't in front of little boys. And little boys will try things that they wouldn't take risks in front of little girls.
Everyone can write a book, especially now that AI exists. I wrote a book on the art of writing manuals as a joke to show how pointless everything was to a friend. Did anyone buy it? You should put it on Amazon. I'm going to use my experience of teaching literally hundreds of first graders over her. Yeah. What do you mean? It's so dumb. I sent it to him as a PDF.
Little boys are more likely to try art and painting and music. Little girls are more likely to try STEM and math and, all these things that we talk about little girls should do. So the idea is that single gender education in the early years is better for little kids because they learn differently.
What about as it relates to men? What would you change to fix the issues you were talking about with testosterone?
This is just like, you don't take into account their personality too. She's just talking like all little girls are like so introverted, so shy, and just sits around and don't have short attention span. That's not true. As if like, oh, little girls don't like to play games. What? She's blurring the lines between gender roles and biological sex. Yeah. It starts with one small step and then turns into a whole systemic problem. And now we're going to separate education between little girls and little boys. What?
Testosterone and those kinds of issues.
Talk about it. We should be talking about it. We don't talk about this issue. How many times have you heard what I just said? People don't talk about the fact that if we're going to flip this around and have men be the nurturers, they're going to have pretty low testosterone.
Oh God, not this again.
You're going to have to supplement their testosterone. And so, and also you take their purpose away evolutionarily and they get depressed. Women have many sources of self-esteem.
She seems like she belongs in like the Andrew Tate friend group. She belongs in the alpha male video that we just talked earlier that said the alpha males are not supposed to poop.
They have work, they have children, they're relational. And for the most part, historically, men found their self-esteem from meaningful and purposeful work, and also from protecting their families.
That is the same for women.
So what we've done
Like,
is
we all find happiness in meaningful work.
we've taken their purposeful work outside the home away. We've made their purposeful work staying home with children. And, you know, we've lowered the testosterone. So if you look at it and say, we're trying to switch, it's like a social experiment. We're trying to change something that's taken thousands of years of evolution to create in just, you know, less than 100 years. And it's, you know, it's problematic. So what would I do? I would talk.
Gender roles were always a fluid concept. The term gender is literally derived from a Roman world that was always meant to be a flexible umbrella rather than a binary system. Yeah.
About it. I would have couples talk about it. I think they need to talk about the competitiveness. I think they need to talk about the envy and the jealousy and even the disappointment. I mean, a woman who comes home and sees her husband caring for the children, on the one hand, she might say, oh, my husband's so sweet and lovely, and I love that he cares for my children. And on the other hand, she says to her friends, I wish he was bringing in more money, and I wish he was taking care.
Yeah, if that's the case, she's just a bitch.
You know, I wish he was taking care of me. So it's problematic.
There was a longitudinal study done in the Philippines that followed 624 men over almost 5 years and found that those who became fathers experienced a significant decline in testosterone levels, specifically.
I'm sick of this lady. Is she going to say anything important or keep yapping? You're already feeling rage. The rage is rising. Is your testosterone rising from listening to this lady? Maybe this is her point. Maybe this is the goal after all, to increase you guys' testosterone. She misses the good old days where men could refuse to let their wife leave them. Oh my God,
Newly
yeah.
partnered fathers had a medium decrease of almost 30% in morning testosterone and 35%
Morning
in
testosterone,
evening testosterone,
like in morning wood.
Yep.
which were significantly greater than the declines observed in single non-fathers. Moreover, fathers who reported spending 3 or more hours daily in childcare had lower testosterone levels compared to those less involved in caregiving. And
So men should not be involved in childcare.
there's also an impact on co-sleeping, where research indicates that fathers who co-sleep with their children exhibit lower testosterone levels than those who do not. This suggests that close proximity during sleep may further influence hormonal changes associated with parental caregiving.
Yeah.
One of the arguments I've heard before as to why men's testosterone dips if they're new fathers is because it's an evolutionary reason to make us not go out and cheat on our partner and take care of our kids.
Well, it's investment in it. So either you're invested in mating or you're invested in caring.
Yeah,
for
so
your
it's a good
children.
thing.
Yes and no, because you still need to have testosterone to have a relationship with your wife, a satisfying relationship. So, and unfortunately, that doesn't stop men from going out and cheating on their wives.
Oh, great. We're back about the cheating. Great. Right. So it's all about the cheating. It's not about him not wanting intimate relationship with his wife, but it's about him not feeling sexual attraction towards his wife, and therefore he's going to look elsewhere. So that's the point. I'm single and I'm definitely not invested in mating or caring. I have a reason this could happen. Less sex after having kids. Sex ups testosterone. Yeah, absolutely. Less sleep after having kids. You struggle with sleep at least for a couple months. Usually for like a couple first years. Sleep, stress with work, and the house is messy, and a lot of things combine. Yeah.
Because a healthy man would say,
But her point is just saying that the reason for less sex is because of lower testosterone, which is very wacky.
you know, well, we used to have sex twice a day, every day. And now that we have a baby, we only have sex once or twice a week because the baby's so small. And a healthy man would say, that's enough. I can compartmentalize. Right? A less healthy man might say, I'm going to go out and get it someplace else because I can't get it here. So,
great.
yeah,
Great.
I mean, there's nuance to all the questions you're asking. But what I would say is that testosterone going down a little bit when you have a baby in the bed is fine. But the kind of testosterone we're talking about going down when you stay home and nurture, we'll see. It could be problematic.
My last question is about devices and technology.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of books written recently and a lot of conversation around the impact that screens, social media, mobile phones have on children. What is your...
This gives so much potential context. There's no context. That's just the point. It's just like a biased opinion of someone in some issue, and that's just basically
thoughts and philosophy towards raising healthy kids in a world of
They don't have any point to give more to it. And just little anecdotes. I just know she's projecting. Yeah, very likely.
Well, I think it's the American Pediatric Association says no technology under the age of 2 for good reason. No iPhones, no iPads, right? You want to sit and watch a Mr. Rogers when your baby is
Totally
2
spies.
together, a rerun of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, that's fine.
Mr. Beans.
But no technology. After that, you want to really regulate that technology. Now, why is that important? Because technology raises dopamine levels in your brain, which is why adults get addicted to it too. It's very addictive. And the problem is that with adults, when you look at technology, it does raise your dopamine. But there was some research to show that technology raises the dopamine in an adolescent's brain tenfold to that of. So in other words, it would be like if you smoked a joint, it would, make you high. If an adolescent smoked the same joint, it would make them 10 times higher. It has to do with the sensitivity of the.
She even looks like someone who would go for that typical Simpson style or picket fence nuclear situation. What do you mean? I'm looking this up. Okay. Okay, look this up.
Brain to dopamine and the lack of regulation. So the prefrontal cortex is
It has to do with the size of the person.
part of the brain that regulates emotions. And it's not fully developed till about 25. So all that dopamine that has to be regulated is more easily regulated in an adult than an adolescent. So it's not good because it leads to addiction. Okay. It's not good because particularly social media, but all kinds of technology, they get the amygdala going. Remember that little almond-shaped stress-regulating part of the brain? It turns on the stress reaction. Which you don't want to do chronically. There's lots of problems with that. And in the case of social media, with adolescents, particularly adolescent girls, it takes advantage. I mean, you have to say that this was invented to take advantage. It's not a coincidence. It's manipulatively created because the reason that it's so bad for teenage girls' brains is because the self-consciousness, the perfectionism, is all the brain in a hyper-alert state of stress and fear. You're putting those girls and boys into a hyper-vigilant state of fear and stress, right?
The nuclear family was a concept popularized in the 50s in the USA, and then The Simpsons was a parody that lifestyle. Oh, no. Yeah.
I have to be perfect. I don't look as good as them. My dress isn't as pretty. So you're putting children into a fear state, and then they can't separate from the device. It's like they get.
You're talking about devices.
There was a movie, I think it was called Inception, where you could get stuck in a paradigm. You could get stuck in this fantasy, right, in a virtual reality.
She did say under 2 years old. Right? I think that's just the point. Under the age of 2. Like, when you're in middle school and high school, you need to use computer to do homework. Yeah.
in a way that,
And like nowadays, you kind of need a phone for maintaining contact purposes.
get trapped in this paradigm of perfectionism, social isolation, self-consciousness, which is all the brain in a hyper-vigilant state of stress.
Anxiety.
So not good at all. Not good for adults, much worse for adolescent brains.
What is the most important thing we should have talked about today that we didn't talk about so far?
It's the presentable 2-story house with 3.5 kids and a dad who provides for the whole family and the wife that is a homemaker. I lose respect for anyone who mentions Inception when trying to seem intellect. Is it bad? Is it a bad movie?
I think we talked about a lot, but I think, what I would say is that presence is just so critical to children, and there's no replacement. This idea that we have as a society that caregiving of children is something that can be generically assigned to others, that you can delegate other things to others, delegate your accounting, delegate your laundry, delegate your cooking. If you're a CEO, delegate everything you can, but spend time with your children.
Okay, I think we can pause here. Inception, very famous. 2.5 hours. Yeah, we're not watching this. This reminds me of Interstellar. Not a huge fan. Unpopular opinion, did not enjoy Interstellar. Anyways, moving on. Let's watch this.
This is inside of one of the famous Bangladeshi ball pit kilns. It is one of the hardest ways you can possibly make a living. It is backbreaking.
For many in the modern world, Inception was the first time a lot of people witnessed that concept in media. He's wanted for alleged role in his wife's murder, and his only chance at redemption is to perform a nearly impossible task. I think. Yeah, it has